Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my review of Get Out. This one came out in 2017. It's starring Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, and Lil Rel Howery, and was written and directed by Jordan Peele. Now, first of all, I just have to come out and say this right now. As far as, well, not even just horror, as far as filmmaking in general, Jordan Peele's one of my favorite guys going today. I remember watching Get Out in the theaters, and the build up to Get Out, I remember people saying, well, he's a comedy guy, and how's he gonna, translate that well to horror? And I knew that it would be good. I knew that it would be good just from the trailers and all of that. And I'm not one of those people that poo-poo anybody who's trying to get out of a certain genre. I'm not implying that he's trying to get out of comedy, no pun intended. But I am saying that, I think people were kind of doubting him a little bit, as people are prone to do. I knew it would be good, and then I went and saw it for the first time in theaters, and holy shit, this movie kicks ass, guys. It is so fucking good. I remember being giddy about this movie, and I went and did some research afterwards, and lo and behold, Jordan Peele's a fucking massive horror fan. He loves horror movies, and you can tell there's so much love of the genre just soaking in this movie. It's so fucking good. I love when filmmakers pay the horror genre respect and treat it like, there's still a lot of people who think horror is just trash and it's all blood and guts and tits and all that shit, which there's a fair amount of all of those things, and I'm not complaining about any of those things. But at the end of the day, horror, is a genre that should be respected, and Jordan Peele fucking gets that, and it was just really good to see. I think all the performances in this are immaculate. Daniel Kaluuya, who is a British man, is a fucking fantastic protagonist with a fantastic American accent. And I went and looked at interviews with him, and when I say he's British, he is full on 100% Ella Gobna, British. He is British. Also, he's just a fucking fantastic actor, dude. He is so damn good in this. Anything else I've seen him in he's great. And then everybody else in this movie as well. I could go down the line, but that would take too long. Everybody does a fantastic job in this movie. I would not say there's a single weak performance in the entire movie. Not only that, there's really not there's not any weak scenes. There's not any weak dialogue. This movie is so crisp, and it just packs a fucking punch, and the pace is relentless. It does not let you breathe, which I love. There's always something happening, even if it's subtle shit. There's always something happening that you need to pay attention to. Jordan Peele is a filmmaker that commands your attention, and I watched this for the second time, maybe third time in my life. I think I had watched it at one point, past my viewing experience in the theater. But on my third or fourth, whatever it may be, viewing of this, I'm still invested. It's still so damn interesting to me, because you can always pick up on something. There's always a little something extra going on, and it's great, man. It's so good. This movie does a fantastic job with tone and just ramping it up with each little incident, you can say, in this movie, and each little awkward bit of dialogue, and and I say awkward in the best way. It was meant to be like that. But every little bit, it just ramps up more and more and more and more till you get to the third act and shit is hitting the fan. It's great, man. And just to wrap up the spoiler-free section here, probably the thing I admire most about this movie is its ability to, number one, be a fucking incredible horror film with just, like I said, great tone, great pacing, great environment, just setting, all of it. It's a fantastic movie. But what it also does is, not only is it all those things, it also conveys a very, very strong message, and a message that needs to be discussed, or a topic that needs to be discussed. And it does that so well while still being an amazing film. To me, I think the best kind of movies are movies that make you think, movies that you drive home from the theater, or you take the DVD out of your player or what have you, and you're still thinking about it. And I like movies that affect people. I like movies that you don't just shut off and go, oh, that was cool, and then you go on with your day. Those are fine, and they have their place. But to me, movies that make you feel something and make you question things and make you just think, it's the best kind of movie. I'm not a fan of movies that take a message that they're trying to convey through a film and just shoving it up your ass and shoving it down your throat. To me, then it's not a movie anymore. I go to movies, I don't want to say to distract myself from the real world, because that's not healthy. But I don't necessarily want to just be thinking about, oh, how bad the world is right now. Or, I just want to watch a movie, man. And I'm, like I said before, make me think, make me question things, all of that. I am 100% down for that. But do not distract from the fact that you're making a movie to entertain people. That's what a movie is meant to do. And to me, the blending of the horror and the message in Get Out is a masterclass in that style of filmmaking, that style of conveying that message while also scaring the shit out of people. It's it's awesome, guys. I know I'm rambling a lot in this spoiler-free section. It's going on a little long, but Jordan Peele's Get Out it's awesome, man. It's 100%. I would give it an A+ if I graded movies on here. It's just awesome. I absolutely recommend you guys go out and watch it. But, ooh, damn. Without further ado, we have to go ahead and get into the spoiler section now. So let's just go ahead and spoil the shit out of this motherfucker. Alright, spoiler time. Your ass has been warned. Now, let's just hop right into it here, baby. So, I don't know why I did that. But anyways, we have an awesome opening here, man. Just the, like I said, all the settings in this movie are fucking great. That spooky... It kind of turns on its ear that bad neighborhood mentality of oh, if you go to the ghetto and oh, you're in trouble there. But and this movie completely flips that on its head, that fucking stereotype. And it's a black man walking through a white neighborhood, and he's a little uneasy. He doesn't really feel comfortable in that environment. It's not, he's just not comfortable. And shit gets a little more, which is, by the way, which is true to life. I mean, I've talked with multiple people who say, much like Jordan Peele has said, what inspired him to make this movie. It's I've talked to plenty of people who are yeah, if I'm the only black person in the room, I'm a little uneasy. And people can feel however they want about that. I'm not going to just do the blanket, oh, I get it statement, because I don't. But I understand just by seeing what's going on in the real world. I understand why someone would feel that way. Moving on. I just think it's really interesting that they flipped that bad neighborhood thing on its head, and they did something different with it, and it works completely. So obviously shit starts ramping up, and this car keeps kind of creeping towards him and stuff, and he's obviously getting more and more nervous, and he's just kind of, okay, just walk away, don't even look at him, don't do nothing. And eventually we get amazing camera work in what was a one-take shot of him getting kidnapped. The camera pans around, and the car that sped up in front of him, the door is now opened, and he has turned around by this point, and you see the car doors open. It's something you need to just see. I can't really describe it very well, clearly. But yeah, he gets kidnapped, and boom, that is our intro, and you're like, shit. It's a fucking grim opening to this movie, dude. And then we get introduced to Chris and Rose, and they are an interracial couple, and it's cool to see them just kind of chilling out in the apartment, just kind of getting ready, and you can tell that they are just so in love with one another. They are just a very, very happy couple, and they're packing, getting ready, but Chris is kind of a little uneasy. He's a little like nervous. He's like, kind of moping around almost. And Rose is like, "What's wrong?" And he just comes right out. She has to pry it out of him a little bit. And shout out to their puppy dog too. He is adorable. But anyways, she asks him. She's like, "What's wrong with you?" And he goes, "Do they know I'm black?" She's like, "What?" And he's like, and it's understandable, man. And it's a shame because that is something that's something that's treated as a big deal still. And it really shouldn't be. It's not, fuck it. I've dated people who don't look like me. I'll just leave it there. But I've been romantically involved with people who do not share my color of skin, and you get weird looks from people, and you get it's fucking stupid, dude. It's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense to me, man. But that's the way the world still is, and especially with some people's parents. I've been blessed with parents who could give a shit if they're green, which is good. But not everyone's family is like that, unfortunately. And so he is reasonably nervous, especially when she says, like, "Yeah, no, I haven't told them that you're black." And he's like, "What the fuck?" And, she then gets into how they're liberal, and her dad would have voted for Obama for a third term, and yada, yada, yada. All well and good stuff. But, the thing is... they're not really all that great of people, as we would later learn. But she kind of calms him down a little bit, and as they're going out to and again, we have subtle details here. Chris is a smoker, and he is attempting to quit, and it's clear that he's quitting for Rose because she wants him to. And all of that stuff, when you rewatch this movie and the twist and all of that, you're like, oh, that's why they wanted him to do that, and yada yada yada. And then it makes so much sense. It's so good. So he's nervous about meeting her folks for the first time, and he ends up going for a smoke, and she tosses it out the window, and there's a cool little dialogue. He's like, "You just fucking wasted $1. That was $1 for that cigarette. You just wasted $1." And another cool thing about Jordan Peele's both of his movies is there's a lot of comedic relief in it. And typically I would feel weird about that with horror. It's like, I don't want to be laughing the whole time, but it's just the way he integrates it. Like, at moments where horror shit is going on, there's nothing funny. Like, no one says anything like funny or anything like that. It's the comedic stuff is played perfectly, in my opinion. But yeah, man, they end up hitting a deer, and a cop gets involved, and and then what happens from there. The cop, even though Rose was driving, asks Chris for his license, and she's like, "Well, what the fuck? I was driving. He wasn't driving." And just shit that, again, is unfortunately how shit is now, and it's fucking bullshit, and you hate to see it, but she stands up for her man. Which, on your first time watching this, you're like, oh, awesome. Like, that's cool. Like, she's fucking rad. And, not so much. We'll get to that. So they get to the house, and stuff's going fine. But it's not. And I say that because immediately they just start treating Chris oddly. Oddly? That's a word, right? Yeah. They just start treating him differently, And that's something I've noticed just, growing up and just being around people, you know? It's like there are some people who just treat black people differently. And it's like, just talk to them like you would talk to anybody else. They're a fucking person. Like, just because they may talk differently than you does not mean you have to talk like them or any shit like that. It's just not necessary, man. And, you know, her dad is just laying it on thick with him. He's trying to get in good with him, you know. And obviously later on in the movie, we have some more sinister plans from them of what they plan to do with Chris and yada, yada, yada. But it's like, that's just... that the aspect, you know, when they get to the house and all of that shit, that's very painfully real. Obviously, I'm not talking from my own experience, but just seeing how some of my friends are treated and stuff like that, it's like people just lay it on thick, dude. They're trying to get in good, and it's like, just treat them like a fucking human being, because that's what they are. They're a human being. Why are you fucking like? It's almost cringeworthy, you know. It's like he's, for instance, here, like Dean's like saying, goddamn, call him like my man and stuff like that, and he asks him like, oh, how long has this thing been going on? And it's like, dude, and Rose even says later, he's like, he never talks like that, like, ever. And Chris is like, see what I fucking mean? Like, I wasn't bullshitting when I told you that I was worried about this. And it's shit that just happens, man. I mean, you know, it's weird. So the two standout moments of this, and this kind of has less to do with his skin color and more to do with the smoking thing. So they find out that he smokes, and later on, you understand why they don't want him to smoke. But if you're just first time viewing this, you're just thinking like, oh, they're just prudish. And we find out that Missy, we find out Missy, who is Rose's mom, and Diener's her dad, that Missy's a therapist. She is a psychotherapist, and she's like a hypnotist and stuff like that. So she's like, oh, you know, Missy can do something that'll just clear you right up. And it's like, do you just want some stranger you've never met before when you're already uncomfortable just rooting inside your head? So Chris is just like, yeah, I'm good. No, I'm all right, man. And I'll just quit the old-fashioned way. I don't need any weird shit going on. And so, yeah, man, shit's already kind of weird. We get a dinner with Rose's brother comes over. His name is Jeremy. And he's like a big MMA guy, and you know, that kind of, he's just talking to him about MMA. Like, it's nice and fun at first, like they're telling embarrassing stories and just cutesy like family shit. And then I love how they do that. It's like, as soon as shit's like, okay, you know, maybe this isn't so bad, they're just typical white people trying to act cool, like whatever, like all right. And then as soon as like Chris shows a little bit of comfort, it just gets just taken away. Jeremy starts talking to him about MMA, and he's drunk. And so he's like just talking to him, and he's fucking, he starts saying like, you know, if you pushed your superior genetic abilities to your, you know, if you really pushed your body to the limit, you'd be a fucking beast. And he's talking about him as if he was like, almost as if he were like a racehorse or something. Just like totally just dehumanizing him almost. Like, he's like, dude, you have such untapped potential. Like, you're a great, you know, basically saying like, oh, you're a resource. Like, if you pushed your body, you'd be a genetic freak and a beast and all this. And it's like, it's just weird, man. And that's the thing. That's the whole first act, or the first part of him being at the house, is just weird. So we go from that to just straight up Crazy Town. Like, we slowly start to get into it. It's not immediate, but we're starting to go in the Crazy Town territory. Chris, in the middle of the night, goes out for a smoke. and then we just see Walter, the groundskeeper, just, and this is the thing everybody remembers this movie for, just running, like full sprint right towards Chris, and he gets about that close to him and just turns, and Chris is just like, ooh, okay, and like he's just kind of like, what the fuck was that? And so he goes in, and Missy's up, and it's probably like, oh, I don't know, like 2 or 3 in the morning or some shit, and she's up and just in her chair, and she's like, do you know how bad smoking is for you? And Chris is obviously like, what the fuck are you doing up? You don't smoke, you know? And we get the whole therapy session, which is like a great way to kind of divulge a little more about Chris's character. We find out that his mom was in a car accident when he was a victim of a hit and run when he was a young kid. He alludes to that at the beginning when they're, you know, sitting outside on the porch or whatever, but we really go into it here, and he just talks about how, you know, he was just sitting there watching TV and he didn't call anybody, even though she was like atrociously late. And he has this guilt inside of him, which is like he can't get over the fact that he never called anybody, because it's like, yo, I could have saved her. Like, I could have helped her, but I just didn't. I was too scared. And like, it's like, dude, that's some heavy shit to be landing on us after all that weird, awkward shit. Like, that's, goddamn. But it was rough, man. And then he starts crying, and we get all these visuals of him as a kid just watching TV, and then she's playing with this teacup, just kind of as a spoon, and is just kind of like, you know, doing this, and like for some reason that trains his brain just fall deeper and deeper into this trance, you know. And she even makes a joke about it earlier. She's like, oh, you're getting sleepy. And it's like, that's exactly what she fucking does for the most part. Like, just something very hypnotic. And I love the choice to use like a spoon and a teacup. Like, it's very, very unique, and it's just kind of like that sound. It's so good. Such a cool little detail in this. But yeah, man, she ends up going over the line when she's like, starts talking about like how guilty he feels and yada yada yada, and then she just says, now sink into the floor. And then he does, he just, and he fucking not literally, like he's still very much there, but it's this crazy, like there's just all blackness around him with this, he's like in a combination of deep space and deep water. It's very, very weird, and he just sees this screen up above him as he's floating. And she goes, yeah, you're in a place called the Sunken Place. And you're like, whoa. You know, it's crazy, man. And he doesn't have any control over his body. And she closes his eyes, and he just wakes up. And you're like, okay, shit's weird. And at that point, I would be like, time to go. But at first, he's under the impression that it could have been a dream, I imagine. And we later find out that it wasn't, when he goes to talk to Walter, and Walter describes, you know, last night, and describes, you know, he's like, you were up pretty late with Missy and all this. And he's like, holy fuck, all of that was not a dream. Like, that was all real shit. And so, yeah, shit's going weird. And then we have the party. And this, to me, this serves as the tipping point of, okay, we are in full-blown holy shit mode. We are in absolute get the fuck out of there Chris mode. And again, it first starts out very, very subtle. No, not so subtle, but not nearly as bad as it would get. But he is just, again, only black guy at this party. Just, again, kind of uncomfortable. Can't really, everyone's like talking to him about being black, or is trying to once again get in good with him and be like, oh, you know, I can't really swing the hips with because one guy's like a golfer. He's like, I can't really golf that well anymore, but I knew Tiger. Oh yeah, see, I knew Tiger. See, I'm a cool white guy. That type of shit. And it's like, you're just kind of like, oh my God. And Chris is like, dude, I need to like get the fuck away. One guy is like, oh yeah, well, being black is in style or in fashion or whatever he says. Another lady is like, just full on comes on to him and is like, is it true what they say? Like, is it bigger and all of this? And it's like, just incredibly weird people. Like, Dean was being a little, I'll give him a little credit. He was being kind of like, not subtle, but he wasn't like, these people are laying it on thick. And we eventually get the reveal. Well, actually, there's a really, really cool scene between Chris and a character named Jim Hudson, who heard of Chris's photography work, because Chris is a photographer and he's taking pictures throughout the entire movie. And he ends up going over and just to get away from everybody. And Jim Hudson is a blind man who, they have an amazing conversation about like, just photography and shit like that, and being just the fact, the irony of him being a blind man and being an art dealer and all this shit. And he serves as a really cool, like, that type of person who is silent, but as we have now heard, and the term has been coined in the modern world of silence is still violence. It's like, he's basically the guy who's saying like, oh, I'm not a racist though. I'm just, and I'll just give away the plot here, I'm just using you. Is essentially what he's planning on doing with him. And really good scene there. We end up getting introduced to Logan, who is with a much older woman. And if you have an eye for, if you remember from the beginning, and if you have an eye for detail, that is the guy who was kidnapped in the beginning. And he ain't Logan. So why is his name Logan? Why is he dressed completely differently, talking completely differently, all that jazz? What the fuck is going on? And Chris is even like, after everything goes down, he's like, I knew that guy. Like, I knew him from somewhere. And what ends up happening is he goes up to him. He's like, oh, it's good to see another brother here. And guy just kind of turns over to him, and Chris, you could just see it in his face. He's like, fuck. Like, he's like, you're not. Yeah, okay. And he is very clearly not in his right mind. And he even rats him out a little bit. Because he tells his lady, he's like, Chris was just telling me about how he is much more comfortable with my being here. And, and Chris just looks at him like, thanks, fuck ass. Like, I appreciate that, you fucking dick. And it's just total dick move by this poor brainwashed man. But yeah, so he ends up going inside. There's a little thing with Georgina on the phone. And one of the craziest, this is the first part of the movie where shit starts getting crazy, is some of the other older white people there go to ask Chris about what it's like being a black man in America. And that's a whole nother topic. We are not here to get into that, but and quite frankly, Chris isn't really feeling it either. And he's like, Logan, how about you take this one, man? Because Logan's standing there too, and then he's about to go into all this bullshit about how, like, oh, how great it is, and, yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden, Chris takes a picture of him on his phone, I imagine to send to his friend, Rod from the TSA, which I'm surprised I have just now started talking about. Lil Rel is amazing in this movie. But yeah, so I imagine he's taking that photo to send to him, but he leaves the flash on, and when Logan sees the flash, his eyes just go white for a second, and his nose starts bleeding, and he snaps out of it. And he just looks at him, he's like, get out. And he's like, fuck, he's like, get out now, get out. And he starts fucking shaking him and shit, and they hold him back, and they drag him off, and he's like, get the fuck out of here, go, leave, go. And, Chris is like, what the hell's going on? So eventually Chris is just sitting in this room just like, what the fuck is happening? And Rose is trying to comfort him. And Logan comes back out just totally normal, like nothing happened. And he's like, oh, I had a seizure. And I was like, that wasn't no fucking seizure, dude. That wasn't shit. Like, that was not a seizure. And Chris can pretty much see through it. And then he's really starting to get suspicious now of something is fucking going wrong. And Logan leaves. And Chris goes out to like the lake to just get some alone time. Rose comes with him. And as they're talking, and Chris is like, I want to leave. I want to go. You see that they are having an auction, like a bingo. Yeah, no, it's bingo. They're playing bingo for someone's life, and it's Chris's. And we just get. And I love the cinematography here of him like holding up numbers and letters and yada yada, and everyone's filling out their cards, and they slowly pan from him, and you see just this portrait of Chris. And you're just like, what the hell? So you're like, okay, they're clearly auctioning this poor guy off. Like, they're going to auction him off, and he's going to be like a fucking, as Rod says, a sex slave, or he's going to be a fucking slave, or some fucked up shit. And there's a little more layer to it than that, and we will get into it. But yeah, dude, fucked up shit. We eventually, he's like, yeah, it's time to leave. And I know I'm jumping ahead here quite a bit, but he ends up finding in Rose's room, he's like, Rose, we gotta go now. We have to leave. We gotta leave. And so when she leaves, he finds this like cubby in the room, and he pulls this box out, and it's photos of all of Rose with all of these different black men, and even a black woman who resembles Georgina, and another black man who resembles Walter, and just all these different people. And he's like, what the fuck? And she comes back, and he's like, okay, let's go. I guess he's of that mindset of like, I don't even want to think about what I just saw, because you just straight up lied to me. You told me I was the first black guy you ever dated. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't want to think about that right now. We just gotta go. And so they start to go, and she's like, I can't find the keys. All the family starts kind of slowly approaching him. Jeremy's blocking the door, and Rose eventually is just like, keys. Sorry. And then just drops him back in the bag. So Rose does a little heel turn on us there, and Chris is all alone, man. And he's like, what the fuck? He eventually gets Missy's able to hypnotize him and make him pass out, and they drag him to the room. And then we get the grand reveal of what this whole thing has been about the entire time, and that is basically the fact that they are trying to they view black people as having superior bodies, but white people as having more determination and more knowledge, or whatever fucking bullshit you want to say. Frankly, they're trying to create, with the coagula experiment, they're trying to lift white minds and place it in a black body, which is like so much shit wrong with that morally, and it's just fucked up. And to any rational person, you're like, what? But again, these people are fucking racist idiots. They're not only are they racist, but they are in denial of their racism, which again is a very, very real thing. They're like, well, we're not racist. We think you guys are genetically superior, and like, you know, we love you. And it kind of is a little commentary into people thinking post-Obama we live in this post-racial world, and we don't at all. That is not the case at all, and that's, you know, that illusion is depicted here, obviously cranked up to fucking 100. But it's the same sort of thing. It's like, oh no, see, we love black people. We just want to harvest your bodies and put our minds into them. Yeah, no, you fucking don't. so, so they end up kidnapping him. He's tied to a chair. Meanwhile, Rod is doing some TSA detective work. God, Rod's so great. And he ends up finding out that the guy from the beginning has been missing for 6 months. And so he goes to the cops. Cops don't believe him. We eventually go back to Chris, and the whole plan is laid out of creating this superior being, you know, a black body with a white mind. And, like, again, preposterous. But I gotta be honest, as far as horror movie plots go, that's a pretty fucking crazy one. And it works out, man. It's warped. It is warped as shit. So, yeah, man, eventually Chris is able to escape a good image of, and this is sensitive shit here, but of him, you know, picking the cotton out of the chair and stuffing it in his ears and using that past oppressive practice to his advantage and really being the thing that springboards him out of there. Because he's able to stuff the cotton in his ears so he can't hear the ringing of the teacup and all of that. And it's like it's good shit. Really good imagery there. And a movie that's, you know, I did not do justice the amount of imagery and dialogue and all of that. It's fucking incredible. Like, you guys really, really do need to see this movie. But yeah, man, he ends up getting out of there, knocks the shit out of Jeremy. Like, just almost caves this dude's skull in. We get some really good surgery footage and shit of Dean opening up Jim Hudson's skull to eventually put Chris's brain into. But yeah, man, so he's doing all that. It's fucking gross. We get him like throwing the scalp in the trash, and then like a bin or something. You're like, oh god, fuck. And then we get all our gory bits here, where he notices that Jeremy's gone, and Dean kind of goes out into the hallway. He's like, what the fuck? And Chris just comes up with a buck, like a mounted buck head on a wall, you know, that type of shit. Like hunters mount deer head on. You know what I'm fucking talking about. And he sticks the antlers right through Dean's neck. Oh, God. Fucking nails this dude. Then we get Missy, who tries to stab him with she tries to hypnotize him at first, but he breaks that shit. So she tries and stabs him with a letter opener. Tries to stab him with a letter opener. And he doesn't like block it by holding a wrist. He just takes it, boom, right through the fucking hand. He's like, argh! And he takes it back and like just stabs her right in the fucking eye, dude. It's great shit. It happens off screen, unfortunately, but still a cool kill. We get Jeremy, who is still back, and he tries to once again prevent Chris from leaving. Chris is able to stab him in the leg and just completely crushes this guy's skull. We do not get any of it on camera. If I had one gripe with this movie, if you even want to call it that, I wish you would have gotten a little more gore at the end, man. I think these fuckers really deserve to go out in a horrible, horrible way. And they did. It just wasn't on screen. So, but hey, we got that awesome deer kill. But yeah, man, we're not done. Rose is still creepily, like sitting on her bed eating Fruit Loops, with like eating dry cereal with a glass of milk next to her. Image of, you know, separating colors from white. You get it. And yeah, man, very, very weird stuff. I think, though, I mean, people made that comparison to me. Like, I thought they were supposed to be wanting to mix the two. So it's like, why would you... I don't really see that too often. I get why people think it's, like, deeper imagery than that. I just think she's weird, really. So we get her chasing him out with a rifle, and he... You know, the fight ensues. He ends up getting in one of the cars to escape. and when he he accidentally hits Georgina, and he combined with feeling bad about his what happened to his mom, and the fact that this woman was victimized, he tries to pick her up, and when she comes to in the car, she just wails on him, and eventually they get into a wreck, and it kills Georgina slash whoever that poor woman was that Georgina was inhabiting. But yeah, man, so we get we get that, and then we have Walter, who runs and basically tackles Chris to the ground. And as he's about to take off, we get the reveal of Rose saying, "Go get him, Grandpa." So that was her grandpa in this big old buff burly fucking black guy, and it's like, whoa, dude, he fucking he's a big dude, man. So it's like, I guess we get a subplot of, not a subplot, but we get like a little backstory of how Dean's dad, who is inside of, it was, Walter, was very bitter about not being able to beat Jesse Owens in the qualifiers for the Olympics. And Jesse Owens is obviously the guy who won a gold medal in front of Hitler as a black man, which is like fucking incredible. One of the biggest historical sports moments ever. And so I really like that little detail that they put in there. And so he tackles him, and then Chris is able to get the flash on his phone to get him to snap out of it. He asks, and then now he is just himself. He is the man who, what the hell am I trying to say? He is not Walter anymore. He is just the guy who was kidnapped and had his brain taken out, in a sense. And so he asks Rose for the gun. He shoots her in the stomach and then turns the gun on himself because he knows eventually he's just going to turn back into Walter. So he just takes the gun and then pow, and just blows his brains out, which is like, if you're in that position, man, I can't really blame you. I can't really blame you at all. But yeah, so then he's trying to strangle Rose to death to kill her and make her bleed out. But then we get police lights, and you're like, oh fuck. Like, I remember being in the theater, and this ending was done so well, man. I remember being in the theater and everyone's like, they're like, no fucking way, dude, are you kidding me? Because it looks horrible, especially for like how fucking a lot of cops are, unfortunately. Big black dude strangling the life out of a little white girl. It's like, dude, he's fucked. And then, of course, we get the door opening, and it's, it says airport on it, and it's fucking Rod, man. We're in the TSA, and they leave. Rose dies, and he's like, how the fuck did you know where I was? And he goes like, I told you, man. I'm TSA. We handle shit. Consider this situation fucking handled. It's just, what a fucking great ending, man. And like I said, Jordan Peele is able to mix that lightheartedness at the perfect time. Like, everyone in that theater thought, oh my god, he's gonna get arrested. Oh my god, he's gonna get shot, yada, yada, yada. But nah, man. Like, that would have been a fucking grim ending, dude. Like, oh god. But we got a really happy ending there, man. What a fucking great movie, dude. What can I say, man? I mean, Jordan Peele is absolutely incredible. Like I said, just combining that amazing commentary and message with just so much great horror elements, taking it back to like Frankenstein with this body swapping and all that stuff. It's like, what a fucking movie, dude. What an amazing movie. I'm not going to ramble too much longer, guys. Absolutely 100% go see this. That'll do it for the review portion of the video, but we have to get into the blood, the guts, and the gory bits. We gotta get into my kill the film. Stick around. as far as the blood and the guts and all that good shit, Get Out saves it for the end, man. And rightfully so, dude. Like I said, I kind of did a bad job at saving the descriptions for the kill for this section. Got a little excited. Sorry, it happens sometimes. But yeah, man, Jeremy getting his head crushed is really good. Having just that letter opener through the fucking hand, and then him just turning it around and sticking it in Missy's eye or face or whatever. That was really cool. Unfortunately, both of those are off screen, but you get a lot of nice gooey, sklooshy sounds and all that shit, which is like, gotta love it, man. Gotta fucking love it. To me, though, 100. Also, Rose dying was very satisfying. She was a total just manipulator, just awful human being, and deserved everything she got. And so I'm really, really happy we got a good death scene with her. But to me, man, 100%, the kill of the film goes to Dean getting those fucking deer antlers through the neck. Just how quick and sudden it is. He walks out into the hallway, all of a sudden Chris just, wah! And dude, it's fucking blood spurting everywhere and shit. And he dies, and dies pretty fucking slow. And it is a rough watch. But, again, I'm a weirdo, and I love that shit. So, it's all good with me. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for now. Next time on Days of Darkness, we are going to continue running through the Nightmare on Elm Street series with what many call the gayest film in horror history. We're going to be talking about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, one that I actually quite like quite a bit, and we will get into why and all that fun jazz next time. But I'm really looking forward to that. I hope you guys are too. With that being said, take care of each other and keep watching horror. All right, take care.